Good afternoon, Premier Smith and esteemed panel. My name is Eva Chipik. I'm with the City Centre of Edmonton. I believe trust in elected officials and public institutions, unfortunately, is at an all-time low, especially after the divisive handling of COVID and the ongoing harms from those mandates. Citizens feel representatives are inaccessible and don't address their concerns. While town halls are greatly appreciated, and I think you can tell by the people here, the format limits genuine discussion given the time constraints and most people's fear of public speaking. I'm shaking a little bit myself. It is important that elected officials engage regularly in meaningful discussions with citizens on important issues. The shortcomings of the past initiatives like the APP, sessions with unknown third-party consultants, underscores the necessity for direct and authentic engagement with those who are elected to represent them. How will your government encourage ongoing civic debate, recognizing that civic engagement is a two-way street and government shouldn't be occurring in secret?
Well, look, I think we're all in agreement. That's part of the reason why we're all here. I can tell you what I do, and maybe some of the other MLAs will be able to tell you what they do. Before every session, I do town halls in both my two major centers, Brooks and Medicine Hat. I've got two coming up next week. And then I also have constituency days where I just hand the day over to my constituency assistant and say, line up one-on-one meetings, and we just try to get through as many as we possibly can. I do regular tours of all of the nonprofits and businesses in my community so I can hear from them directly. I do business roundtables, again, not just with my constituency, but also with at McDougall Center and here during the when we're in session. And I also do telephone town halls and speeches. Like I try to be as accessible as I absolutely possibly can. And when I do have time for photo lineups, that's when people can talk to me one-on-one just to raise issues. I have a weekly session with one of my staff where we go through and look at all of the emails that are coming in so I can see which ones rise to a level that we need to get a working group on. So those are the kind of things I do, and I can tell you each one of our MLAs works super hard in their area. I know that there's a bit of a gap in Edmonton because we don't have direct MLAs here, and so we'll be working to see if we can do some kind of pairing so that every one of our MLAs has an orphan riding so that we can work on being able to be accessible that way. Those are the things that I'm working on. I don't know if anybody else wants to add.
Yeah, no, well, thank you very much for the question, and it's a good one. And just to kind of echo some of the comments that the Premier said about, each and every one of us is extremely accessible in our own ridings. But I want you to know the MLAs in the donut, and I would speak for each and every one of us, including MLA Jackie Lovely, as well as MLA Wojchenko. We are spending a lot of our time in Edmonton because we realize that if we take the battle lines to Edmonton, then we're going to prevent those NDP MLAs from going out to the donut, going out to other urban areas, and trying to gain more ground. So I know each and every one of us has been at cultural events and business events throughout the entire urban city of Edmonton, and we're going to do a lot more. So expect to see, the six of us in and around Edmonton a lot more over the next couple of years. So, but thank you very much for the question.
Can I just make one addition to that as well? I'm doing an amendment to the Follow to the Point legislation, freedom of information, and this is something that hasn't been updated since the internet was created. So it's certainly due. And now, just the rules of parliamentary democracy, I can't go into detail before we do first reading, but here's what I will tell you, is that we are bringing forward a process for proactive disclosures. So in other words, we're not going to wait until you ask us a question. We're just going to tell you some of these things. And it's going to increase the transparency to government, because ultimately a transparent government, an open government is always going to be a better government.
Just add to that, because it's germane to the question here. So again, I'm Shane Getz, I'm from God's country. We've got the Hope to Bless Our Lake out there, but really what it does when I say that is to get people talking, to be proud of their communities and who they are. And typically we get a lot of good debate on that about what the best place in the province is. I'm pretty grassroots, pretty old-fashioned. My background was pipelining construction. It wasn't politics. So the same way that I do stakeholder engagement, if I was going to be ripping and tearing up your backyard to put in a nice 36-inch pipeline, is the same way I conduct myself now. I will accept shamelessly pretty much any invitation that you folks can put together. I'll come to your town halls, I'll come to your garage, I'll come to the bake sales, I'll go wherever you want. But so if you want to applaud that, that's good. The reciprocal is I'm going to hold you accountable too. You've got to help me because we are doing a lot of really good stuff. And the fact that you folks here came out today is testament to that. But we can't get our message out there either. So back to the fine young lady there that was asking this question, it's a two-way street. This thing is not perfect, it's imperfect, and we need your help to do it. The other thing I do is I do What Matters to You, little podcasts, I do little local paper articles, and I shamelessly have my cell phone number attached to my business card. So if you have my business card, you got the bat number, so I'm as successful as I possibly can.
And I should also just say that Shane is a crossover for us as chief whip. So he sits at the cabinet table, but then he also chairs private members caucus, so that every private member has a forum where they can vent and share information, and then Shane is able to bring that to cabinet so that we don't end up getting the disconnect that I think you identified. One other thing that we brought back in is cabinet policy committees, so that our private members chair all of those, and it's a mix of private members and government members, so that if we're going forward with legislation, we get an early warning sign of whether we're headed in the right direction or not. And we either pull the legislation if there's too much pushback, or we modify it so that we can address the concerns. So we're hoping with some of those processes, that gives multiple points of access into our government through every single elected member.
A humble request to the MLAs and the premier, please, because Edmonton has a lot of questions. So